Chats on Cancer. I'm Mary Robinson.
I'm Jamie Moore. So Mary, who are we chatting with today?
Linda Vitek, and we're so happy to have you on the show. And you are a breast cancer survivor, is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Can you tell us a little bit about when you were first diagnosed?
Sure. I was diagnosed on March 24th of 2011. I found a lump on my right breast and went in for a biopsy and a mammogram first, and then went for the biopsy, and the biopsy came back and it was a positive, and I also had a lump on my left side, so that also determined that it was on both breasts.
Okay, so how often did you check yourself for lumps? And when did you start checking yourself, at what age?
Okay, I had a mammogram every year since I was 30 years old, and I was 44 years old when I was diagnosed. So I did breast exams, or self-breast exams, probably at least 3 or 4 times a year in between.
Okay.
And so I was really glad that I did that. And it was very sensitive. It really hurt, the little spot.
Oh, so that's probably why you checked then.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
Yeah, because that's something, honestly, I don't do as often as I should. I don't know if that's what normal people, you know, if they, because usually you're supposed to do it once a month.
Right.
And
right.
I think during your menstrual cycle.
Right.
And
exactly.
it was just
right
always
after.
something that I didn't do that often. And it's so easy. You could just do it in the shower.
That's right. That's where I found it, was in the shower.
That's, for me, even the guys, it's, you know, breast cancer is not just limited to women.
Right.
That's true.
You know, it's, guys get it too. And, you know,
That's
guys
right.
have to be very aware of it. And we don't go in and get mammograms.
No. No.
And so we have to, you know, and the bad thing about being a guy is nobody teaches us how to look for lumps in our chest.
That's right.
So what would you suggest about, you know, early detection?
Early detection is great. When I was diagnosed, I was stage 3.
Why did they consider it stage 3? Where was it?
Okay, because it was already in, it spread, it was in both breasts, and that it was also in my lymph nodes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so on my left side, I had, what was it, 17 lymph nodes removed, and out of the 17, 15 were positive. So that was the determination of the radiation for afterwards, and I only had it on my left side, not my right side, because on the right side they took out 22, and it was only positive in 1. So they felt the chemo would take care of that part.
Okay. You chose to have a double mastectomy, or was that chosen for you?
That was chosen for me, just because I was not very big, and the tumors were quite large on my left breast, and even though I found the lump on the right breast, they felt that it was best to have both of them off.
Okay.
Because of the different sizes.
Now, did you ever have, like, was there any cancer in your family that led you to start having mammograms earlier and doing self-checks earlier?
Yes. My mother, sister, which was be an aunt, she had breast cancer, but of course they were in their 70s. And then my mother was diagnosed with colorectal cancer, and she was put on hospice. She went through the chemo and all that, but then it wasn't working no longer. So they decided we just put her on hospice. So then during that period, she had a breast that became oozing. There was redness around the areola and that type of thing, and they told us that it was probably orange peel breast cancer. So,
Okay, what's orange
I've
peel
never
breast
heard of
cancer?
that before.
it's very, very rare. It's very rare, but it's usually, and it's very deadly too. It's
Yeah.
usually, it's hard to cure. So
Is
I guess,
that like the skin area, or I'm just
It's
thinking of an orange
around-
peeling.
yeah,
Why do
it's
they-
just real bubbly, real lumpy around that area.
Oh.
It looks just like an orange peel, real dimply looking, that type of thing. And she had a lot of discharge from that breast. So, but we decided not to do anything because of the other cancer. So,
Age and-
right. Her age, she was 81. So that was just something we did. So then I think that made, and then also my sister was diagnosed 2 years before I was with breast cancer, but she was 52 at the time, I believe. And so I guess always in my mind I thought, well, you know, I should check myself. Always check myself. You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
So it always seems like when you're busy, you hurry, and then it's like, okay, maybe it's time I do need to do this. But I noticed that this breast hurt a little bit on this outside. So I guess that night I decided, well, I should check it out. So that's what I did. So
Well, we're glad you
it's like-
did.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, mhm.
And you've been cancer-free for how many years?
I was diagnosed in 2011, and so I've been cancer-free for, let's see, 5 years, so it'll be 2 years then?
Okay.
Because they go from your 5-year,
Oh, so at 5
anniversary.
years and then like a cure.
that's the cure, right?
And then you're 2 years out from that.
right.
Oh, I didn't know that's how that worked.
Uh-huh.
I'm going for the 2.
Yes,
You know,
the
so-
5
so-
year.
I would
so
go for the
basically-
7.
I know.
You're 7
The-
years out.
I'm
is
7 years out. The
from your last
5 year
day of
is
chemo.
that so I've been 2 years cancer-free. Always the 5 years you're in remission.
Okay.
So
Well, we're going to change that rule.
that's
And
good.
we're going to call you're a 7-year survivor.
Yeah, I kind of
take
like that
that.
a lot better, don't you?
I do too than this 5 and 2 stuff.
Yeah, it's kind of
It
confusing.
is
Right,
confusing,
right,
you know.
right.
So did you do genetic testing then, since you had all
the-
these relatives and yourself
Yes.
with cancer?
Yes, I did. I did the first one just shortly after, I was going to say probably right after I was diagnosed. And that all came back negative, so it was not genetic. But about 3 years ago in November, I did another genetic testing, which, because my father had brain cancer, my mother had colorectal along with breast. My dad's brother had prostate cancer, and then my mom's sister had breast cancer, and we also have ovarian cancer, cervical cancer in the family. So with that genetic part, they said there's got to be some type of connection here
Right.
because they're finding out new things in that. So I did that genetic test, and of course it came back negative again. So they say it's environmental.
Yeah.
Really? Is there,
It just kind of goes to show you, even if you do get genetic testing and it says you're negative for, colorectal cancer,
That's
breast
right.
cancer, leukemia, it's still self-diagnosis, and first-line diagnosis is always the best way to go. So like in your case, even though the genetics said negative, your family history said, I got a family history of cancer, and so
It's bad.
you were very fortunate in that you found it early.
Yes.
and were you thinking about, since they said environmental, about moving to a different area or maybe eliminating some stress in your life, or what was the environmental factor, do you believe?
Well, I don't, I live in a farming community, so all the sprays and so forth, and you can smell them when the spring and the fall. So that
That's
was
just
the
like
part.
me, by the way.
Right.
Because it's scary, you smell that and so forth. So I try to eat healthier. I see Jamie to help, I'm a hairdresser, so I'm around chemicals all the time and that type of thing. Try to get plenty of rest, exercise, try to do the things that make me feel good, about myself and that type of thing, and have that positive attitude.
Exactly. Which also brings me to the fact, like, how did you feel about your body after you went through the surgery for the breast removal? Was it harder for you, or did it?
At the time when they said they were going to take off both breasts, I'm like, I can do this. It's not a problem. Get rid of that cancer. I want it out of my body.
Right.
Well, after I had the surgery, it's scary. I cried in front of that mirror I don't know how many times.
Right.
And then after then it was like 6 weeks after surgery, then I had my first chemo. And he said, 2 weeks later, you're probably going to lose your hair. Wow. 2 weeks later, you lost your hair. And you just look in the mirror and it's scary. You don't even know who that person is. I was scared. And I thought, oh, this is not a big deal. I'm a hairdresser. I was like,
You could put a wig
could-
on
right,
or whatever.
Right, right, but it didn't look good in a wig either, I didn't think, so, and they were uncomfortable for me, so.
So you probably had to find
Hat.
yourself again or whatnot.
Right, right. It was really hard, that was really tough.
That's got to be tough.
It really
You know,
does.
especially when, you know, you had it, you're young still. You know,
Right, I was 45.
You had your breast removed, then you have your, so this is going to be a dumb question. Which one did you miss the most, your breast or your hair?
Oh.
Okay, no, that's probably good. Probably my hair,
Say something
right?
else.
Probably my hair was
Your hair?
probably the hardest. Because I
Really?
always make it look good, you know? So I was like, I never
Yeah.
walk out of the house without
But
looking nice.
I just have to throw this out
But-
there. Your hair grows back.
It does.
Did you have any surgical?
Then I had
enhancements?
reconstruction, right. But I did it after, because since I was stage 3 and I had it in so many lymph nodes, they recommended that I did not do reconstruction until after all of the treatments. So that's what I did. So and the hair thing was the hardest for me because I had no eyebrows. I have very hairy arms. You know, I had no hair on my arms. I mean, every bit of hair is gone. And that was just really different for me.
Yeah.
Did your hair come back a different color?
It did. It came back really dark
Oh.
and curly. My hair was straight. And I was a towhead, really, really blonde. So of course I color my hair now to
To go back to
go
the
back to
blonde.
blonde.
So you still have the dark hair?
Yep.
Wow.
I sure do. And it's
So
naturally,
didn't
more
didn't your
wavy
hair
now
come
than
back
curly.
really super
Mine was
curly
about
too?
the same as far as color goes.
Okay.
But it did come back really curly.
okay.
And
I
yeah.
wonder why
I love
that
it.
is. I wonder why when your hair comes back, because mine's like baby fine and straight as a board. So if I lose my hair the next round of chemo that I get, that I'll get curls.
We don't know.
I don't know. Some people's do come back straight still.
Right.
But I think it's more common to have the curly hair.
And then like
Great.
mine is not as curly as it was because it was just really curly.
It was curly.
Right, and as it grew out, it got a little straighter, but still I have,
Mine did too.
I have waves or body in my hair, so it's not straight. Used to always get perms, so this is kind of nice.
It's kind of, yeah.
I said the best part about chemo was getting new hair
I was going to
And
be a
getting the
fiery
cure.
red. I just
Yeah.
knew it, but
and
didn't
being
happen.
cured, of course.
Oh, that, all right,
Good
moving
fire.
on out
Things
of
to
this
look
question.
forward to, right?
Right, right,
Yeah, by brain cancer, you get curly hair.
Right.
Or you by cancer, you get curly hair.
right.
Well, I'm going to actually ask you another question.
Sure.
So, since you had parents who had cancer as well, you were also a caregiver.
Yes, I
So,
was.
you've been a caregiver and you've been a survivor. What tips or what kind of things can you tell us about your experience with that? Or were you around your parents a lot to help them?
Yes, I was. My mother was still alive when my dad was diagnosed, and my dad had brain cancer, and it was really quick. He just deteriorated really fast, and my dad and I, we were really close, and I just felt like I needed to be there all the time, but I still had to work, and my job and that. So on my days off and in the evenings or so forth, I would go and help take care of him. But he got to the point where he could not, talk or feed himself or so forth. And so he went into the local nursing home, and I spent a lot of time with him there. And he just needed that, somebody to be there with him because he was scared too. I could tell his eyes showed he was really scared. And I know he was worried about mom, being alone and so forth. And so I tried to be there for my mom, to help him, give him a bath. I mean, something that a child should not have to do to their parent. That was really hard, change a diaper, and it was really a hard thing to do. But I will never, ever regret helping him out,
No.
ever.
And you don't get
And
that
that-
time back.
No, you don't.
So,
That's right. And then with my mom, same thing. Other than she was alone, she had to go into the nursing home because there was nobody there to be with her.
Right.
So every day off, I went to the nursing home. I brought her to my house because after she was done with the chemo, or when they said no more, she actually got better. But so she came to my house and she would do different things with me and so forth, and I'd take her back to the nursing home and that type of thing. And then when things got, where she was sleeping more and things were slowing down and that type of thing, then I would just stay with her, read, watch TV with her, hold her hand. Just knowing myself with the chemo, I felt so alone in my journey. I was so scared and alone. I was on a lot of steroids, and they make you very anxious, but yet the chemo made you tired.
Yeah.
So I just, felt like I just, if anybody is in this journey alone, I want to be there for them.
Exactly.
It
You
doesn't
didn't
even
feel like you could be with friends when you were going
Right.
through this and whatnot?
Right. I did.
or
I
have a
had some really
support
good
group?
friends. I mean, I had really good friends too. But still, when you're by yourself at night,
Right.
it's scary.
Night seems to be the worst time for
Right.
all of us.
Well, and then-
we were talking with somebody that was saying that at night when her husband fell asleep that she was always kind of jealous because we're stuck in the middle of the night with no support system, and
Right.
she
Wheels
was
turning.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You always think, can't sleep.
There's,
you're
there's chemo mind or chemo
Mhm.
brain, which is chemo fog. But to me, I think there's another term I call it cancer mind, where I can't turn my mind off
Yep.
about things, and it always happens at night. I mean, it seems like during the day you got television or you got children
Right.
or work or distractions, but once the lights turn off, it's kind of like you
It's right.
feel like
It's dark,
you're it.
and it's like and then your mind does do crazy things to you.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does.
It does.
What'd your mind do? I mean,
I don't. It was like I don't know. It's like it would tell me I needed to do this, and then I needed to do that, and I needed to do this, and I needed to do that, and I'm like, I can't do any of this, that type of thing. I don't know how to say it. I guess like for the next day, it would tell me I needed to, get the laundry done, do the chore, do this and do that, and then go to work. And it's like, well,
It's like
there's
you're
no way I
planning out
can't-
your day.
right,
at
right,
night.
but you can't stop.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, and before you know, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, and you're like, ooh.
I haven't
and
even
then-
slept.
Right, haven't
Yeah.
even
Yes.
slept. And then 4 o'clock comes, and you finally fall asleep, and the alarm goes off at 6, and you have to get up.
You know
Go
what I
again.
found very helpful when I was going through some of the mind, just thinking of things all the time, is I'd have a notebook and a pen right beside my bed. And if it were things that I'm just like, oh, I can't forget to tell Tim or one of the kids to do this or that, because I usually wasn't able to at the time. And I would literally write it down. So then I could just erase that from my memory
Right.
because I won't forget. I wrote it
Right.
down. Did you ever try anything like that?
Yeah, I had a journal that I needed to keep things to that, or things I wanted to make sure I told the boys, and usually by the time morning came, then I forgot what I wrote.
And that's why it's so
then-
nice to
yeah,
write.
and then half the time I lose my journal too. It's like, where's my journal?
It's a chemo
Right.
brain, right?
Right,
Yeah, that's
definitely.
chemo brain.
Chemo brain is bad.
I
So
know.
you had radiation and chemo.
Oh, right. I
Okay.
had chemo first, and then after I was done with because I had the first round, I had 2 types of chemo, and I had it every 2 weeks, and there was 4 of them. And then the next chemo was the Taxol, which I had 14, and it was once a week for 14 weeks. But it took me longer to get through it because my white blood count was real low.
Okay.
So we had to stop and do the shots and to get that boosted back up. And so when I finally got done with chemo, it was like in October. And then my first radiation was Halloween.
Oh,
Oh.
yay.
I know. Yes.
Yeah,
So, to me, radiation was nothing compared to chemo.
Really?
Chemo was harder on me.
really. See, I've
Yes.
heard different, I never did have to do radiation, did you?
I didn't have to do radiation
Um,
either.
But I've heard people getting burnt.
The burning was
Um,
bad, that type of thing.
What
But
do you mean by burning?
your skin gets real bright red and very irritated, itches. Don't scratch because you can get an infection because you still have the chemo in your system,
Right.
so you don't heal. So you have to be really, really careful.
Tell us a little bit about radiation, since neither one of us have had it.
Okay.
Can you tell me, like how, when you go into the hospital,
The procedure?
the procedure,
The
yeah, like
procedure,
what to expect for people that's going to have radiation?
Okay, well, the very first, when they told me I was going to do the radiation, and that I saw 2 doctors, and I decided to go with the Fremont Hospital because it was closer for me.
Right.
And so the first thing we had to do is they had tons of X-rays so they get the right spot, that type of thing. So then they get their images and so forth, and then they have this, I don't know, like this big X-ray type thing that points it all out to get the direct zap into that area. So I had 32 treatments. It was pretty much from up here because you have lymph nodes up in here that they don't remove now.
Okay.
They like to keep them because you need it for your lymphatic system. And I went down here and then back and then to my back too. So it was a big area. And then I had 4 more just right in the incisional area because they say if cancer does come back, it'll be in that incisional area before the lymph nodes.
You probably hide in there easier.
Yes, so I was really surprised about that. So when I went in, got into a gown, then they put me on this, it's a real hard bed type thing, and then they had to put my arm in, it was strapped up like this and above my head and that type of thing, and it probably took 10 minutes because I think I had 7 different rays. They had to be so careful not to get my heart and my lungs because they didn't want to burn them areas, so they did several X-rays after about every 2 weeks.
It's amazing to me that you can burn a body
From
that much from 7 minutes.
Yes. Well, it's 7 different zaps. It doesn't take 7 minutes. It's just to get that ray goes through. It just zaps you, and then it's another. Then they move it around. They moved it around like 7 different areas.
Do you see the light that comes to you?
You can see the light because there's yellow, red, and green and blue. They do. It's like, and that helps them pinpoint the area. And then they also had my first tattoos, dots, dots to help them with the areas
So
of the.
it marks the area, so
Yes,
you can go
marks
back
the
to
area,
the area?
so they know where to set up the.
So
light.
you have an actual permanent
Yep,
tattoo? Where,
Right.
Oh,
There's,
really?
I think there's 15 of them.
wow.
15 marks. I probably don't have all of them now since I had the reconstruction. They probably removed some of them, but.
Right.
Well, I thought she was actually talking about tattoos with nipples
Oh,
because
right.
one of my friends ended
Yes.
up getting reconstruction, but then she tattooed nipples on.
Right,
And I don't know if everybody does that, but I
it's-
thought, why not?
right. It's totally up to you. I did not, so, but,
Yeah, it's probably all to your own. you
right,
know?
that's right.
Yeah. So that's interesting, though. They do that for radiation too.
Right, it's just dots, just so they can line it up easily with, then lines line up with the rays that these lines that you see throughout the room. It's really interesting.
Did you get sick from it? Besides, the burning and the itching? Did you
I
get
was
like
probably
a
really,
nausea or
really,
anything?
no, I've never got
Nothing?
sick to my stomach. Chemo made me very sick to my stomach.
Right.
All I had with the radiation is I would be really tired, and then I had a lot of burning, and so they gave me a special cream to put on it in them areas and so forth, and it took longer too to get done with it. I finally got done the day before Christmas.
Yay.
Oh,
Isn't
that's
that a
nice.
wonderful
What a-
Christmas present?
Yes, I
Yep.
told them, please let me
Great
get done
gift.
before Christmas. I just wanted to be done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Start the new year off with something new.
I just wanted to be done.
I know, exactly.
I was just done by Christmas time for me.
No.
My last, one of my scans in November came back cancer-free, but they still wanted to do chemo on me just to make sure everything was gone. But I can still remember that Christmas being just a totally different Christmas than the Christmas before. When I was in the hospital. So yeah, Christmas is a beautiful time to be healthy.
That's right.
It is.
That's right.
Be able to be with your support system and everything like that. It's so much fun. That Christmas was one of the more fun Christmases for me.
I know when I had my first diagnosis, I was able to be home at Christmas time, and it was wonderful. We were all downstairs with the tree and the gifts, but I had to wear gloves and masks, a
Okay.
mask still, because I had no immune system. And, you know, of course, you have family over.
Right.
I had my parents and my mother-in-law and whatnot, and the kids were around me, and they could sit on my lap, but I had to have the mask on. But I still remember that night, and I was really happy just because I was there.
Home, yep.
Yes.
Home
it was
and
Christmas,
being with your family.
and- yeah. So we're going to probably start wrapping this up a little bit. Is there anything that you want to tell to the people that have had breast cancer and reconstruction, radiation, chemo? With some words of wisdom you can give
Words
to
of
us.
wisdom, okay. You know, early detection is the right thing to do. So do your mammograms, do your self-breast exams. And first of all, put God in your life, because I could not have made it without God. Because I know He
Amen.
helped me a lot during the night when I was sleepless, and that too, lots of prayers.
Oh, yeah.
I would have to say that. I don't know, I'm very thankful to be here, you know,
Yeah.
every day.
And you're doing
you know.
well.
I'm doing really well. I just looked on my calendar. Next week, Monday, I go back for my 6-month checkup.
All right.
Do you ever get nervous at this point?
I'm still very nervous.
Yeah.
Don't like to go see him. I don't know why,
Sorry.
but I'm just
Yeah.
nervous.
Wow.
My blood pressure's
I
always
think
up when I
that's
walk through
always
the door.
probably a
Everybody's
given.
going to be nervous. That's why we
Yes.
got this show.
Yeah.
right.
We're so glad to have you here.
Well, thank you.
And,
Thank you for
and
having
you're
me.
welcome back anytime on our show that you want to
Okay.
come back.
Okay.
So
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
And
too.
I hope that everybody else joins us again for another episode. And tell all your friends about us, because we're Candid Chats on Cancer, and we're here to help others.
guys have a wonderful day.
Bye.